Welcome to Section 1 of Module 1, Navigating AI Interfaces. This section is the foundation for everything that follows in this course. And before we talk strategy, frameworks, or deployment, we need to make sure that every person has actually touched one of these tools and knows what they're looking at. That's the entire goal of this section. Our learning outcome for Section 1 is straightforward. By the time we finish, you will be able to navigate AI interfaces confidently across major platforms. Not fluently, confidently. There's a difference. We're not aiming for expert level today. We're aiming for capable and safe. The three things that'll get you there: understanding the anatomy of these tools so the interface doesn't feel foreign, knowing the data privacy rules before you type a single word, and completing an actual productive session on your own. Let's build that foundation. Here's why we start where we start. Most AI training programs fail command staff before they even get going. They spend the first session talking about the future of work, AI ethics, and industry trends. That's not useless information, but it means people leave the first session without ever having opened the tool. This section is different. We start with the hands-on. We start with the interface. By the time you leave this session today, you will have navigated the platform, you'll understand what you're looking at, and you'll have had a real conversation with the AI that produced something you could actually use. We're not here to make you a developer. We're here to make sure you're not dependent on one. That distinction matters enormously in a command staff setting. Modern AI assistants like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini share the same basic anatomy regardless of who built them. Once you understand these three elements, the mystery goes out of any interface you encounter. The chat window is where the conversation happens. It looks like a text box, but it behaves nothing like a search engine. You're not getting links. You're getting a direct response generated on the spot. The system prompt is invisible to you in most tools. It's background configuration that shapes how the AI responds before you type a word. In enterprise deployments, your IT department may have already set this up, and the context window is where the AI's working memory is for the session. It remembers everything you said, using your earlier messages to shape every reply. That's both a power and a limitation we'll come back to. Knowing these three things mean you never feel lost in an interface again. This is the most important reframe for anyone picking up an AI tool for the first time. This is not a search engine. A search engine takes a few keywords and gives you a list of places to go look. An AI assistant takes your actual question and generates an actual answer. The quality of that answer depends entirely on the quality of what you put in. Think about the difference between asking a subordinate to look into fire inspections versus saying, "I'm a battalion chief. We have our annual compliance review in 3 weeks. Give me a one-page readiness checklist covering NFPA 1 priorities." Same topic, completely different outputs. This reframe is the foundation of effective AI use. We'll spend significant time in Section 1.2 building the prompting skills to make this work in practice. For now, the single takeaway: the quality of what comes back is entirely within your control. The system prompt is the part of the AI interface most people never think about because you usually can't see it. Before you type a single word, an administrator or the vendor may have already given AI a set of instructions. Those instructions shape everything: the tone it uses, what topics it will and won't address, whether it knows your agency's name or your role. The practical implication: the same underlying AI model can behave very differently depending on who configured it. The general purpose assistant on your phone operates from a neutral baseline. The AI your EPCR vendor built into their product operates from a very specific set of vendor instructions. In an enterprise license, your IT department controls fall somewhere in between. This is why I always recommend that command staff start by asking, which version of this tool am I actually using? That answer changes how you interact with it and what you can reasonably expect from it. This is a feature that makes AI assistants feel genuinely different from search engines. The context window. Within a single session, the AI remembers everything. Every message you've sent, every response is given. It uses the entire history to shape each new reply. That means you can give it context once, your rank, your department, the type of document you need, and it will apply that context to every follow-up without you repeating yourself. That's a significant efficiency gain once you start using these tools in your actual workflow. But there's an important limitation. Context windows have a ceiling. In a very long session, early messages may start to drop out as the window fills. If you notice the AI losing track of instructions you gave earlier, that's usually what's happening. The fix is simple. Start a new session and give the essential context again at the top. Think of it like a shift change. Brief the new crew. I want to stop here and make sure that this is crystal clear because we will return to it throughout this entire course. There are two fundamentally different categories of AI in fire service operations, and the risks between them are not even in the same universe. Administrative AI covers the stuff you're thinking about when you hear AI for the fire service. After action reports, grant writing, policy drafts, training outlines, budget narratives. These outputs go through human review before they matter. If the AI produces something wrong, you catch it. The downside is a wasted hour. The risk is manageable. Operational AI, real-time incident command support, autonomous dispatch, live sensor analysis. These applications fail in ways that can get people killed. That's not hyperbole. That's the physics of what happens when AI systems make real-time decisions in life safety environments without adequate governance structures. In this module and in the hands-on work we're doing today, we are working entirely in the administrative lane. That's where the gains are immediate and the risks are manageable. And the ROI is real. The hard line between these two categories is something I expect every person on this webinar to internalize before we move on. You're going to encounter different AI tools across your department. Vendor integrated products, enterprise license, and consumer grade tools your staff are already using without telling you. Command staff need a working map of the terrain. There are four categories or four types of AI you'll encounter. General purpose assistants like ChatGPT and Claude, broadly capable, they have free tiers available, but those free tiers carry data privacy implications we'll cover shortly. Enterprise versions of those same tools, paid with data isolation and privacy guarantees, are more appropriate for actual department work. Vendor embedded AI inside your CAD, your records management systems, or your EPCR systems. AI you may already be using, sometimes without realizing it, and critically, your contract controls what happens to your data. And finally, local on-premise AI on department hardware. Highest priority control, significant infrastructure cost, and a topic we'll address later in Module 8. This isn't a product endorsement, it's a map. Knowing which category you're dealing with changes how you use it, what you trust it with, and what governance questions you need to be asking. Let's do this together. Open the platform on your own device right now. We're going to walk through this in real time. Step number 1, create an account using a non-departmental email address. This is for practice only. Before any of this goes near real department data, your organization needs to establish a formal account with appropriate data handling agreements. Today, we're in practice mode. Step 2, and don't skip this. Spend 60 seconds orienting yourself before you type anything. Where's the text input? Is there a new conversation button? Can you see your previous sessions? Are there model selection options? Fire service leaders who take 60 seconds to orient themselves in a new interface make far fewer mistakes. Specifically, they're less likely to accidentally continue an old session that still contains information from a prior conversation. Layout awareness is a data safety behavior, not just a convenience. Still with me? Good. Let's move on to step 3. Step 3, start with something you already know the answer to. This is intentional. When you're calibrating trust in a new tool, especially one your department may eventually rely on, you want to test its accuracy on something you can evaluate. If you ask it to summarize the role of a battalion chief and it misses something critical or gets something wrong, you'll know it immediately. Try the prompt on your screen now. Read the response. Was it right? Was it incomplete? Is the tone professional enough for a document? This critical reading habit is one of the most important skills you'll develop in this course. Step 4 is where AI becomes genuinely useful. Don't stop at the first response. Follow up. Ask it to make a response shorter. Ask it to reformat it for a slide. Ask it to adjust its tone. Watch how it tracks what you asked before. This iterative back and forth is the actual professional workflow, not a single perfect prompt. One good follow-up prompt almost always produces a dramatically better output than the initial response. Remember that. We'll reinforce it throughout Module 1. Before any command staff touches an AI platform for the first time, this information comes first. Not because it's legal boilerplate, but because departments have already faced real scrutiny from these exact mistakes, and the liability lands on command. 6 categories of information that never go into a free consumer AI tool. Patient information. Full stop. HIPAA applies regardless of what the tool's terms of service say. Personnel records and disciplinary files. Never. Personally identifiable information combined with incident data. That combination is the specific thing that creates exposure. Unpublished budget figures. Active investigation details. Anything your agency would protect under a Freedom of Information Act exemption should not be put into a free consumer AI tool. Here is the standard I want you to take back to your departments. If it would require an FOIA exemption to withhold it from a public records request, it does not go into a consumer AI tool. That's a rule your staff can actually apply in the field without a law degree. Simple, defensible, and it covers the major exposure areas. For actual department work, the answer is a properly contracted enterprise environment with defined data handling terms. We'll cover procurement and contracting in Module 7. For today, we're using non-sensitive practice scenarios only. These 5 mistakes show up in nearly every first session, across every rank. I'm going to run through them quickly so you know what to expect. Treating it like a search engine. Keywords don't work. Write in plain language, the way you'd brief a colleague. The more context you give, the better the output. Accepting the first response without reading it. This is a discipline issue, not a technology issue. Every AI output requires human review before it goes anywhere. Read what it gives you. Inputting sensitive data on a consumer account. We just covered this. Practice scenarios only until your enterprise agreement is in place. Expecting perfect outputs immediately. The people who get the most out of these tools treat the first response as a starting point. One follow-up prompt changes everything. And abandoning the tool after one frustrating session. This is the most common way command staff miss out on a genuinely useful capability. The learning curve is real, but it's measured in sessions, not months. Stick through the first 3 sessions. The return on investment starts showing up in that window. Let's take 2 minutes to check comprehension before we close out. There are 4 questions from the section. Question 1 is, what is a context window and why does it matter for a long AI session? The context window is looking for an understanding that the AI uses everything said in a session to shape each reply, and that long sessions may eventually lose early messages. Question 2 is, name 2 categories of information that should never go into a free consumer AI tool. We talked about those. So if you remember on data privacy slide, there are 6 different categories. Any 2 of those would work. Question 3, what is the key distinction between administrative AI and operational AI? Administrative AI carries low operational risk that goes through human review. Operational AI operates in real-time life safety environments and requires dedicated governance before any deployment. Question 4, describe the difference between consumer AI account and an enterprise AI account. Understanding that consumer accounts may use inputs for model training and lack data isolation, while enterprise agreements include defined privacy guarantees and data handling terms. Before we close out, here is your take-home assignment. This exercise should take between 20 to 30 minutes. 4 steps. First, write a prompt asking the AI to summarize the role of company officers in a typical municipal fire department. Second, evaluate the response critically. Find one thing it got right and one thing that's incomplete or inaccurate based on your actual experience. Third, write a follow-up prompt asking it to fix the inaccuracy you identified. Fourth, ask it to reformat the final result as a 3-paragraph briefing memo What I want you to do is upload your memo into the learning platform. I also want you to show me what changed between your first prompt and your final result. The gap between those two outputs is exactly what we're going to analyze in the next section when we get to the anatomy of a well-crafted prompt. If you found this exercise easy, push yourself in step 2. Look harder for the inaccuracy. These tools have real gaps in the fire service specifically, and learning to spot them is a professional skill. Let's close out section 1.1. The goal of this section was not to make you fluent in AI. It was to make sure you touched it and that you did so with the right safety instincts in place from the start. You now understand the basic anatomy of an AI interface. You know the hard line between administrative and operational AI. You have a map of the 4 categories of platforms you'll encounter. You know what never goes into a consumer tool, and you've completed an actual hands-on session. That's the foundation everything else in Module 1 is built on. In Section 1.2, we move to the skill that separates AI users who get real results from those who don't. The anatomy of a well-crafted fire service prompt. The self-study exercise that you'll be completing is specifically designed to set up that conversation. We'll see you in Module 1.2.